Forbes India presents M Connect Season 2, powered by Marmo Solutions.
Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Forbes India presents M Connect Ideas That Build Tomorrow, powered by Marmo Solutions. I'm Ambika Sharma. We're witnessing a fascinating shift across architectural projects today. Beams, edges, and structural systems are no longer hidden necessities, but active participants in storytelling and spatial experience. Today's theme, Tectonic Language, the Poetics of Construction, invites us to look beyond architecture as simply a form of facade and discover the deeper dialogue between design, structure, material, and craftsmanship. Joining us to explore the translation of engineering and construction into emotion and identity are three renowned architects. First up is Love Choudhary, founder and principal architect and studio, known for designing spaces that are exclusive in identity, strategic in thinking, and powerful in experience. We also have with us Singh, founder and principal designer, Archi Hives, celebrated for its broad range of expertise in the field of architecture, planning, and interiors. And finally, we have Dinesh Panwar, founder and principal architect, Urbanscape Architects, known to create highly functional and expressive buildings catering to a diverse clientele. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I want to begin with you, Mr. Choudhary. Talk to me about the relationship between structure and expression. Is structure something that should be seen and celebrated, or should it quietly lay the foundation and really hold the architectural story together?
I would say before we even deep dive into what structure and tectonics is, we need to understand that what or whom we are building for. And that is the human presence, right? So all of this, when we talk about structure, we are talking about an outcome. As a studio, as a principal, I'm more focused on what is the emotional resonance that I can bring onto the board. As a studio, the design philosophy is very simple. We are human-centric. Anything that you make is for the humans. So before the architecture comes in, before the structure comes in, before the build form of the building comes in, is the kind of message that you want to send across to the life that will go beyond it. Or I would say the architecture and the structure becomes the backbone or the background to where life happens. So it should exist, be it concealed, be it in the pure raw power of concrete or in the softness of finishes. But it has to be just the life has to flourish around it.
Right. That brings me to you, Ruby ma'am. Tell me, there's a great sense of refinement in your work, but when does the practical side of construction really start shaping your creative decisions?
See, first we make all the preliminary sketches and all. After finishing that phase, we have a joint meeting with our all engineers and the senior staff. Like in my family also, we all are architects. We all sit together and we understand the challenges we are going to face for that building. And if it's okay, then fine, we continue. If some challenges, naturally we improve the project.
Now, Dinesh, talking about construction details, is there something that you're completely obsessed with in every project that you do?
See, if you look at the end product, there are a lot of details that goes into any construction process. So, we can't be married to one particular detail, be it right from the foundation to the point where we, finish the building. It is all flooded with details. And experience plays a lot of role in creating a sound, functional building.
Right. Now, Mr. Choudhary, when we talk about tectonics, one thing that we often hear architects talk about is structural honesty. What does that really mean to you?
I would say structural honesty is nothing but authenticity. So let's say two examples of different material that we use in our practice. Stone. Dynasties have come and gone, right? How do we know they lived or they were here before us or they'll be after us? The stone that has been left off, we have made sculptures out of it, we have made forts, palaces, everything. And the way the craft has been imbibed in that stone has created the softness of it. Similarly, in the same space when the power and rawness of stone is there, there's a softer, calmer material like timber, which can be carved, which can be more monolithic as well, but can create a softness. So let's say you have a soffit, and then you have a lintel and a doorway, which is created in wood, right? So timber and stone go hand in hand. So tectonics, if I say, and the engineering marvel that we keep on talking about, I simply say is just thresholds of design, how when you impose power in architecture through the brutalist concrete it could be. And the second way is when we do timber. So timber is again a softer material. How they coexist with each other is something that we kind of explore in our design language.
Ma'am, I want to know from you, how do elements like joints and edges, the smaller elements, really define the nature of your architecture?
Yes, joints are very important, and they tell about their own story. If joints are, say, sharp, that means something else. If they are rounded joints, the story is different. And if they are recessed kind, that means they are showing some shadow, some perspective that way. So all joints have their own stories.
Dinesh, I'll come to you now. Every architect goes through moments when design ambition and construction realities kind of collide. So in such moments, how do you adapt without losing sight of what you wanted to achieve?
The project is process driven, and every detail or the structure that we work on is well thought of. It is not adapted from an image, or it's not influenced by what you see all around you, but it is specific to the project, to the brief, to the user. So in that particular case, it is very rare that you lose track of what you want to build and what you want to achieve end of the day. We have a very sound team in terms of the consultants that we work with, which helps us achieve the preliminary thought. Also, a lot of times the final product or the concept is too radical to be implemented, but I think that is what keeps us going. In terms of the process is very enjoyable. Every day you are cracking something new. You are finding people who can achieve who can help you achieve that.
So dreaming big, is that something, do you always, when you're imagining something, when you're at the design stage, is the dream always big? Does it seem unrealistic also at some point?
So we are building a project which is Alila Lansdowne, one of the Hyatt resort properties. As an architect, the expression was not to take the hill as a given brief, but considering that what we are adding or what we'll take out from the hill, whenever that structure is removed after 30, 40 years, it does not look like we actually borrowed something from the hill. It was part of the hill. Always, it is the idea that the structure always was there, and when we removed it, we left the hill untouched. And the engineering brilliance, as we call it, we are talking about, architects are dreamers and the engineers kind of value engineer it, but it is a cohesive process. So in such project, what happened was when we were working on the plan, we had columns of 1.5 meter by 1.5 meter. We started calling them almost elephant legs, because in a span which is, let's say, 12 meters by 25 meters, and the height is 8 meters, after the false ceiling we might get 6.5 meters. The span is too big, but the columns were becoming an eyesore. So engineering wise, we sat as a team, as architects. I wanted to round it, and the engineers were, this might come up with a structural integrity. I said, what we can do about it. So now imagine a 1.5 meter by 1.5 meter column turned into a 900 dia column. Now the light bends around it, and what we have done is we are cladding it with timber. Now that creates softness. So during the morning light, which is the VRs, the sun temperature would be at 6000 Kelvin or something. During the afternoon, it might start to come down and warmer towards 2500, 30,000 Kelvin. So the way that timber behaves from day to night creates a different, and this as an engineer he would not know, but as an architect, because I'm a dreamer and I have lived through these consequences or these instances in life, I enjoy that. So I shaped that for them. So this is an example of Alila. That is architecturally a bigger dream. Now coming to the smaller details. We did a penthouse in Magnolias on the 23rd floor. One of the poshest community to live in today, right? The penthouse on the 23rd floor has its own problems. You have neighbors below because you're the last one there. And then structurally, I wanted to add a 18 feet waterfall plus a spiral staircase. I have to cut the structure, which I have to take permissions from the developers, lower people, who are living over there, and how exactly I would handle the vibration, waterproofing, the humidity that will come, and the movement of the building, because the structure is already designed. Now I'm adding or taking something out of it. So a spiral staircase is an addition. So how could I be in a situation that I don't tectonically, deviate from the structural element which is there and add value to it. And similarly, a waterfall, which is a moving element. The engineers were like, why do you want to do this? I had to sit them down with the client that let's talk the emotion. What is the outcome? So it's like a relationship. We don't understand each other on the first go, but when you go out for dates, we meet each other. There's a relationship building, and then third on the fourth day, probably we know each other well. That is the relationship that we have with our all the consultants who are there along with our clients. So we ran through that brief, and then we told them that emotion is 23rd floor penthouse. Nobody would imagine a waterfall, and a spiral staircase because that vertically creates that volume and connects the two buildings. You are sitting in a space, you feel the height, but then also you are connected to the upper floor. And the day the project was done, the engineers came in, the client came in, and I knew there was silence. And that is what we wanted. It was a voila moment for us because we created something which was considered an engineer marvel, but ultimately was a place that was designed to look for peace. So we did that.
That sounds amazing. Ruby ma'am, have you also encountered such experiences where, there was some difference that you had with the engineers, but eventually it was a product that everyone was just in awe of? Any passion project that you want to talk about?
So many projects. So now having a very good experience also, 35 years experience I have. So making high-rise buildings, the county group we handle all over Noida. So making those buildings, interiors and other parts of that is really a big challenge always, because they have a limited budget and limited specifications of materials also. But we always cross that and we win. Yeah.
Right. Dinesh, coming to you, anything that you want to talk to us about, any passion project of yours, like Mr. Love was mentioning, difference with engineers, but eventually creating something that just makes sense?
So we started as a strong architectural firm, and then subsequently we got into interiors also, which require a lot of detailing and materiality and all that stuff. When we did our architecture, we only learned about buildings and their materials and the structurality and related things. So while we were working on Stonex factory, it is assumed that you only do factories in pre-engineered sort of material. It's faster, it's quicker, it's easier to build. But somehow we were a little abhorrent with that idea because the site, the place, the context demanded something else. Also, the users who would be using the building would require certain amount of comfort while working in a place, because for every project that we work on, for us the user is the most important factor in that particular project. So we designed the building in rubble stone, which was locally available there, and large concrete spans. So we had a structural consultant who was 78-year-old, and he had probably the best experience in a place like Delhi. So when the project got finished, he told us this was the biggest span of his career. So the entire structure, it was kind of a hybrid way of building that required rubble, concrete and steel. So all three came together to create the structure. So that was an interesting project that we worked on.
Interesting.
And,
it's always like you have to pivot at some point. Mr. Choudhary, have there been structural conversations that have sometimes made you transform the direction of your design? Has that happened?
I think in the last decade, quite many times, I would say. And very much that kind of collaborative effort and that conversation is needed. Because like Dinesh said, that you start with an idea, but then, and you said like we pivot. It's not a pivot, it's a solution based thing. So it's like, as I say, that design is all about making 1,000 mistakes, but you choose 1,001. So you understand the one that you want to. And it's a mistake at the end of the day, because in other size it might be, you could have done it this way. But when you get into a conversation in a project, then you understand that probably the outcomes are more defined by the user, by the project brief, and you have to listen to the site. At times the site will give you the right solution. So when these communications start happening is with engineers, because they are Unfortunately, the second layer still. The first layer is we dream of it in concepts, present it to the client, and then we get an understanding that which way it's going. And once some structure is in place, then it goes to the engineers to work on it. Here, if I again come up with an example that we actually did in the hills, and I love the hills, because of the way the earthquake movement is to be taken care of, the technically buildability, not everyone can tackle it. So it's a very transformative process. It's not like you think something on paper, it can be built on site, you go to the site, something else is happening, and then you come back on the drawing board. So it's a back and forth with the site, the conversation is that way. So in that I learned that again having a span of 12 meters by 25 meters is considered quite big. And I always thought of doing columns. Now if I'm doing a triple height space with columns, it does not look much different from a railway corridors or something which is so much structure, so much I would say raw. But you can't expect that in a hospitality space. Hospitality is about calmness, peace, and polished finishes as well. So I sat with the engineer and I was just showing him I have put the columns here on this grid, and he brought into a system. He said, "You know already how shear wall works." I said, "Yes. Why are you not imagining it like this?" And suddenly that was the pivot moment. Okay, let's think of shear walls. Now imagine the same story. The building is there and it's a 120-meter long building which has portals of these shear walls, which almost looks like that someone has pushed a monastery on top of a hill, because the columns are being cladded with rubble, and the same way the shear wall is cladded with rubble. So you see through passing through threshold and portals. It's almost like when you go in a train into a tunnel and you're out, that kind of a feeling starts to happen. So this is a conversation which is a brilliance in conversation which starts when you enjoy that process with your consultants, your engineers, and everyone has a word. It's not like you want to overrule because you're the project architect, you want to hear them out, and that creates a resonance. So I always say that the structural honesty, authenticity, and that instinct of being truthful to the answer is something that you look at. And then these places, as I said, like the portals was something that we were not looking for, but we discovered it was, or let's say found, while the conversations happened. Concrete is a material that would beautifully do that because it shows that raw power of being there. But the softer material cladding of stone and the human nature, because I could touch it, brought to that intimate level where the human psyche will say that I am in a safe space and this is hospitable. The concrete might not look that hospitable, but the stone finishes will.
Very interesting. Ruby ma'am, I also want to know from you, the way the space is built, does that also transform how people feel? Like, have you had amazing reactions from people after having seen what you've created for them?
Yes, all depends on the volume. If we go for a high roof height and the ceiling height is high and the colors are very nicely done, pastel colors or the white color, it gives really a wow factor and volume to your design also, and very welcoming. The person enters, he says ki, wow, this is something, something unique and something nice, because that height is giving a effect of the volume and wow factor. Similarly, if we go for the something narrow and highly textured walls, it gives something else story that gives very warm effect, because lot of texture, then the space is narrow, so that kind. Similarly, the material is also very important. The way you take your materials, like the flooring, what kind of stone, what kind of wall finishes, what kind of the textures, all depends. And if you go for a monochromatic, the people are more attracted because its own story and all. So I say that the volume and heights and length, weight, everything is really own story, with own story.
Very interesting. Dinesh, I want to know from you that have there been some demanding structural challenges that you faced, and they were such that you actually learned something about architecture from those instances?
Yes, there's this office building we did in Surat. The client was a developer. So the building footprint was not much, but we wanted to create a landmark sort of a building because this is what people expect from a developer. So the first thing that came to our mind is that any building that we appreciate is either good art or great engineering. there are very few people who understand the emotion and the space beyond that. So we wanted to create an amalgamation of good art and architect and engineering for that particular building. Even though it had a small footprint, it was an all exposed RCC building with a stone screen, a red agra stone screen. That is how we amalgamated the two structures, whereby concrete becomes the brutal material, something that takes the load of the building. It had the entire building was cantilevered by 32 feet, and we had to club the two floors with shear walls to achieve that cantilever. And the stone skin was that decorative art material, which had its own nice texture and perforations, because couple of floors were non-air conditioned. We had done radiant cooling for those particular floors, and it helped them bring down the temperature to 28 degrees or so. So that is how the entire building was done. It was a very tricky, structurally challenging building, and we have won multiple international awards for the same. So that was one project that still. But I would rather give the credit to the client, because there are very few clients who have the strength to ask an architect to create a landmark sort of a building for them, because everybody wants to play in the safe zone. There's a lot of investment, a lot of time, that is, plus the image. Suppose something goes wrong with the building,
a lot of credit to the client, basically. Yes. Yeah. So after now that detailed and insightful discourse, it's time for the quick take. The quick take is basically short questions, quick answers, and the first thought that comes to your mind. Mr. Love, I'll begin with you. Which material do you trust the most in your work?
Stone and timber.
Stone and timber. Do you prefer exposed structures or concealed finishes?
I think it's on the expression honesty of the project. At times, as I said, that you can be raw and powerful, but you have to be soft and calm at the same time.
Which construction detail do you notice first?
I would say thresholds and joints. It's like relationship and how exactly one resonates with other.
Absolutely. And engineering brilliance or on-site craftsmanship, what impresses you more?
On-site craftsmanship done brilliantly.
Ruby ma'am, your turn now. Hand sketches or digital design, how do you begin?
Hand sketches.
Hand sketches.
Because I think that the hand and the pencil and mind have direct connection with the sketches. Yes.
Which detail do clients often miss but you'd never?
Joinery details. Joints.
Precision or experimentation?
Precision.
You value precision more?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Finding the core idea or getting every detail right? What is harder?
Every detail.
Getting every detail right is harder. Dinesh, which structural system do you enjoy working with the most?
Hybrid structures. Stone and wood, steel and concrete.
Site challenge or bold design idea? What's more exciting?
Bold design.
When does a project feel most rewarding to you? When it's imagined, built, or finally inhabited?
See, the journey is the best part of it. So I enjoy the process, and the built part is just the reward.
What do architects need to understand better about construction?
Everything.
Everything, you said?
Yeah.
Very interesting. Those are quick, fun takes. Today's conversation reminded us that architecture is never just about buildings. It's about ideas taking physical form. And through every structural decision, architects are shaping not only spaces, but human experience itself. This session beautifully explored how construction can move beyond utility and become poetry. A big thank you to our esteemed panelists, and thank you for watching M-Connect, Ideas That Build Tomorrow. Until next time, remember that good design isn't only seen, it is felt through the way something is built. Thank you so much for watching.
Forbes India presents M-Connect Season 2, powered by Marmo Solutions.